Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Altcoin Buzz Trading. My name is Randy. Today we're going to be discussing KuCoin's native token KCS, Polkadot, and we'll also be talking about Bitcoin. So let's get right to it. We've got Bitcoin yesterday, really the past 24 hours, with an opportunity to move up. Some volatility came into the market. Unfortunately, it didn't go up. That's not a big red flag to me. It's kind of a red flag to me where things could not be really ready to go up. And that could be a problem here for a lot of people with really bullish trades on right now. As you can see, the volume got a little bit more aggressive here on the overnight session, and we really didn't have any price movement in either direction. That means there's churn in the market. Churn basically implies that buyers and sellers are just trading tokens. There's really not a lot of pressure in one direction or another. So there's a lot of buyers. The buyers are buying from many different sellers, pushing the price up. And when there's sellers, the sellers are selling to many different buyers, taking the price down. When there's churn, there's just people, hey, I'll take 20, you take 20, I'll take 20, you take 20, I'll take 20. And there's really no one in the market buying large or selling large. And it's hard to get any good directional information out of that. And that's really looks like what's been happening. And that usually only happens when you begin a stall. So best case scenario is that we chop around here, stay higher, can form some type of a horizontal out of this action, and then we can try to move forward. Other than that, we may just begin a rollover, because to churn in the latter part of an uptrend like this, not ideal. Now, it's only 24 hours worth of churn. Sometimes that's enough, sometimes it takes more, but the whole point is that we haven't made any forward progress. And it doesn't mean that, this last 24 hours was the only 24 hours that it needs to go up. As you can see on the daily chart, it's been going up for about a week and a half, but it had a shot to do it. And I really don't like the higher volume without price progress upwards. That's kind of, I don't want to say a red flag, but it's a little bit of a red flag. So we'll see what happens. If it can stabilize and curl up, all is good. I don't think anyone needs to jump out of the market. You just need to be aware that churn is happening. And when churn happens, you need to be a little bit on the defensive. So you can start putting some stop losses in play, maybe raise some stop losses. Also, really nothing in the market is moving right now. I saw one token that was up 30%. It was a random spike. You can't do anything about that. But we had Rune over here not break out, and then we had what's the other one I had? Caspa. I didn't have on this channel, but I had Caspa that broke out and failed. So what we have right now is really nothing rallying where we had an opportunity to rally some things. All right, next up, let's take a look at DOT. I think this is interesting. Polkadot came on the scene a few years ago. I don't remember exactly when. Came on a few years ago with big promises. Never really delivered on their promises, and the chart actually shows that. Let's kind of zoom out here. Polkadot was one of the first to come on the scene at kind of a higher valuation. A lot of the old layer ones came onto the scene, had really good runs. Polkadot, not quite so much. You had, a good pump here right after the IPO, or ICO, but not a lot of people got in on that one. And then you had this other secondary pump, and then this one is kind of going on with the market. Since then, really nothing. And we continue to be bearish on this token. And as you can see here, the market's bearish on this token. Volume is really just down to an abysmal place, and this appears to be breaking trend lines, continuing lower. So I'm going to have a trade here. Let me get my measured move first, actually, before I do that. And as bearish as this token is, take you to that bigger picture yet again, as bearish as this token is, when you start undercutting all-time lows like this, it gets very difficult to really come back. Because who's going to want to buy this all the way down here? They've had all this chance to buy and support this token, and they haven't. And this is a big market cap one, so this quite literally could just erode away into nothingness. Think ICP. Go look at that chart. All right, so let's take a look at some type of a target. Really, we had a small base that kind of came down here. I don't think that's going to be large enough of a target, but I'll paint it on the chart for you anyways. And then for a larger picture, this may actually be the move that we may get out of this. So let's put this on the chart. This takes us down dramatically lower. We're at the 15, what are we at? 15, 14 right now. This takes us down to the 950 level. That's going to be about 37%, as little as 13% to the downside with just the spike low. So let's go ahead and throw a trade on this. It's actually already kind of begun the trade, but I think this is such a bearish chart. If the market remains the way that it is, choppy and bearish, I think it's going to be, it's still going to perform well. So your stop is going to be over this prior high here, right about there. 2.29% risk reward ratio, or 2.29 risk reward ratio. There's no percentage there. Ideally, you'd wait for a little bit of a bounce. You wouldn't actually get in right now. You'd wait for a little bit of a bounce, but your stop loss is only 5.68%. And as bearish as this is looking, I think that we get at least to this target for a 13% gain. Target there is at 13.17. If we get to the other target, the longer term target, that's a 6.6 risk reward ratio, coming out of a fairly bearish setup. And with volume doing what it's doing, which is nothing, basically, it definitely could continue going down. And then after that, we'll look at KuCoin's token. So this one's interesting. This is kind of a, I don't want to say a fun trade. This may be more fun to watch than to participate in. But I'll be honest with you, there's no great setups in the market. I gave you a great one yesterday in Rune, and that hasn't performed yet. So that's your great setup. Most of these are small ball setups. And KuCoin is no different in that one. So I do want to give you the context here. Sorry, let me zoom out again. This thing has just been on this tear to the downside that's also been very, very consistent. And we had a rolling over here a little bit, coming over, cascading, and we lead into this kind of larger, longer term rally structure. The problem with this rallying structure is it's all been on declining volume. All right, now the buying's been a little bit more consistent, which makes sense because it's going up. But once those sellers start stepping back in, the second they start stepping back in, as a matter of fact, this thing really could just start cratering back down. And from up here, you got about a 20% drop to the recent lows. So I'm just going to, for argument's sake, say that we have a topping candle, but we don't. So let's go to the 2-hour time frame real quick. This is a little bit, I mentioned this is not the best trade of all time here. This is a little bit riskier to take just because we don't have a clear topping signal. The only topping signal we have is the fact that it's hit this trend line on this upslope after about a week and a half here, okay? So that's really the trigger for this play. And your risk reward ratio looks like this. Your entry could be right now. If you want to give this an arbitrary stop of 2%, which is where the tool just popped it randomly there, that's at the 455 level. And if we extend this, there's a couple of different ways to play this. Make sure I get my lines lined up correctly here. Looks pretty good. You can go all the way down to the bottom of the trend line here. And actually, if we just go sideways here, this may turn into about a 1-to-1. Yeah, it's about a 1-to-1 risk reward right there. But if you get in here, first of all, if you get in here and it comes all the way down here, you can move your stop close to break even here, which right now is about 1%. Which really isn't too bad. And then if it breaks this trend line, you're in the trade already, and then you have all the way back down to go for the 20%. And for a 1% stop loss, that's a 20-to-1 risk reward trade. So this one's not too bad. And this kind of goes with the theme of the market stalling out where we are right now, Bitcoin being unable to rally. If that is the case, then KCS will probably stop its rally and then continue to roll over as well. And so I would view this as one token. Even if you don't take the trade, it could be one that kind of shows you a bit of the sentiment of the market. If it stabilizes out and then does a bunch of choppy stuff, still looking at a short, but the entry won't be as clear. So I think this is probably one of the more clear entries we're going to get with a touch at the top here and then unable to follow through to the upside. Also, most of the time, these do stall out. So low volume rally and stalling out price action right there for potential 2.61 trade or 20-to-1 risk reward trade on that one. So that's all I got for you guys. I do want to mention this is not a great trading environment. There's really not a lot of big trades to be had. It's just the reality of the situation. And it is what it is. So circling back to BTC here, this is really going to tell the tale, and this is really what's going to give you market direction. And right now it's been directionless really for the past 48 hours. I don't like the rise in volume. That shows that there's a little bit more distribution at play here, because if it wasn't distribution, we'd be going up. That's the short story there. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow on Altcoin Buzz Trading.